The war provided many opportunities for women to take on new roles. They were able to vote, they could drink, they could smoke, and they also drove cars. Women also got jobs in medicine, education, and journalism. This caused for a change in attitude as well, because they wanted things such as birth control, and they spoke for freedom. They finally received the right to vote. Fashion also changed. This was the picture before the war. This was a picture of the modern fashion, where women started to wear looser garments and cut their hair shorter and get bobs. They also started to wear more makeup. Women like this were called flappers, who were attractive, independent, reckless, young women. During this time period, education became greater appreciated than it was before. This is because schools became free. Also, the leaving age for school had gone up to 14 years. The school day hours were extended from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and the kids had different study topics. For example, they studied more nature, woodwork, and dancing. Art became more modern. Artists used surrealism, automatic drawing, art deco, and propaganda to convey different ideas. A great example of surrealism is when artists used the depiction of death and destruction after war. The bodies were covered with earth, and they showed aspects of combat. This allowed the citizens to see what war was really like for their soldiers. People became more interested in movies and radios. A commercial radio station, the BBC, began broadcasting in 1920, and soon many people owned them in their homes. By 1930, the silent movie had basically disappeared, and cinemas were showing sound films. Movie producers used propaganda to convince people of political views. New advances in transport arose. For example, before the war, only the rich owned cars. After the war, as cars were mass-produced, the prices dropped so families could buy cars. Lifestyle changes arose because people could travel for pleasure, and they could commute to work every single day. There were also air travel changes. In 1919, 2 pilots made the first flight across the Atlantic Ocean, non-stop. Families were able to travel by plane or car to go on vacation destinations. As farming decreased, families didn't need as many children to work on the farms. Because of this, families shrunk. For example, there used to be maybe 12 kids working. Instead, they only had 3 to 4. Like we previously mentioned, women had jobs, so they weren't working in the kitchen and doing things at home. There was more personal responsibility involved in family dynamics because the women weren't doing all of the work at home. A negative effect post-war was the Great Depression. The Great Depression started occurring in the 1930s. Unemployment rates were through the roof. Over 2 million people were unemployed. This broke out because of high levels of debt all around this time. Coal reserves also depleted, and imports were higher than exports, which was bad for the economy. A lack of investment in new mass production techniques led to the Depression. Also, poverty contrasted with the middle and upper class, and there was a great socioeconomic divide. One of the most famous strikes was the Great Strike of 1926. This was where coal miners decided to strike against the coal producers. This was because they wanted a higher pay and less hours. Thank you for watching, coming soon to your local theater.